Our searchlight is nowhere else but in Switzerland. We shall be talking about one of the most closely watched global gatherings of the year, which is the 56th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos. What does Nigeria stand to gain? An analyst will share his thoughts with you on the program. In Davos, President Donald Trump launched his Board of Peace initiative with a signing ceremony aimed at resolving international conflicts. Also, European leaders react, express relief after Trump's agreement on Greenland. These are some of the stories shaping our fourth week of 2026. I am Ekene Ndube, welcoming you to a fresh episode of the program Global Updates, the program that brings you up to speed on stories you may have missed in the course of the week. Let's have trending stories that made headlines within the week. Here is a graphic representation. Within the week under review, world leaders, corporate giants, and policymakers have gathered at the Swiss Alps for the 56th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, one of the most closely watched global gatherings of the year.
From heads of state to tech titans, the lineup is historic. Around 400 top political leaders and more than 60 heads of government are present, alongside nearly 850 chairs and chief executives and dozens of innovators shaping global tech and finance. Among those attending are U.S. President Donald Trump, set to deliver a major speech this week, European Commission President and French President Emmanuel Macron, and leaders from Africa, Asia, and the Americas. This year's sessions revolved around 5 core themes: cooperation in a contested world, unlocking sustainable growth, investing in people, deploying innovation responsibly, and securing prosperity within planetary limits. Geopolitics and AI dominate the agenda. With rising geopolitical tensions, economic confrontation is now viewed as one of the biggest global risks, replacing armed conflict in recent Forum Risks surveys. On geopolitics, European leaders criticized tariffs linked to the Greenland dispute, calling for unified responses and highlighting the evolving dynamics among allies. The president and CEO of the World Economic Forum welcomes a historic number of participants to Switzerland's Davos.
We are convening at such a consequential moment for the world, when geopolitical developments are fast-moving, when long-standing trade and economic architectures are being redrawn, and when technological forces are reshaping our industries and societies. We are standing at the start of a new reality.
Critics of Davos argue that despite the high profile talks, what is lacking is concrete action on inequality, climate change, and inclusive growth. Still, for many attendees, from nation states to private enterprises, Davos remains the premier stage to shape global priorities for the year ahead.
Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima led Nigeria's delegation at the 56th annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. The gathering marks a milestone in Nigeria's global economic diplomacy with the official debut of Nigeria House in Davos. For the first time, the federal government has established a dedicated sovereign pavilion on the Davos promenade. Vice President Shettima presented Nigeria's 2026 economic outlook to the world's most influential political and business leaders. He also participated in key plenary sessions focusing on the responsible deployment of artificial intelligence, AI, quantum computing, and biotechnology. This facility, a product of a successful public-private partnership (PPP), will serve as a permanent hub for high-level ministerial engagements, investment roundtables, and cultural diplomacy throughout the week.
The expectations for Nigeria, we have for the first time ever a Nigeria House at Davos, very exciting indeed. It will be declared open by His Excellency the Vice President tomorrow afternoon. At that house, we'll be launching 4 investor playbooks. Really, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has had a whole of economy approach, and we're here on the global stage to present solid minerals, to present our climate, sustainability, agriculture, to present our creative sector, and then our digital sector. So those are the 4 playbooks that we brought with us to Davos to speak with several investors from across the world, and it's really an exciting time for the Nigerian economy.
The of Nigeria House in Davos reflects the country's renewed resolve to take its place as an active participant in shaping global economic conversations. Vice President Kashim Shettima stated this during the formal opening of the Nigeria House at the 2026 World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland.
The message of this House is simple and deliberate. We are replicating on the global stage what His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has delivered at home in repositioning Nigeria's economy. We are here to engage the world from a position of strength. It's one of the world's largest emerging markets. They reflect an economy regaining its bearings and preparing for deeper industrialization, stronger infrastructure, an expanded digital and services economy, scale climate and energy investment, more competitive trade systems, and greater value creation across manufacturing.
From this official opening and throughout the entire week, we shall signal the above through a rich, carefully curated agenda of formal discussions and social events, which we're known for. And I encourage everyone to sign up and participate fully in the stellar lineup.
We have a professor of international relations on the program. He bears his mind on whether Nigeria is on the right footing, looking at the nation's trajectory.
We still see engagements going on in the international system. Countries are aligning and realigning. New alignments and new relationships are being sought after, whether at bilateral or multilateral level. And so Nigeria is finding its footing. Nigeria is doing all that it can to attract quality investment. Of course, Nigeria is an investment destination for any takes because of the volume of the Nigerian economy, because of the volume of the Nigerian population, because of the resources deposited in Nigeria. We all know that anybody who speaks about Africa and doesn't talk about Nigeria isn't serious about investing in Africa. 1 out of every 4 Africans is a Nigerian. So population-wise alone, it gives us a very strategic position. And this is not to talk about the mineral resources. 30% of the world's arable land is deposited in this country. And so therefore, we have all that it takes. What we're seeking out there are partnership. No country can live in isolation or survive in isolation within the international system. So therefore, countries must engage with one another. We also have a fantastic fiscal and monetary policy in place now. We have an external reserve that has, for the first time, shoot up to over 40 billion US dollars, which is a perfect shock absorber for any right-minded investor. And on the African front, to the last part of your question, on the African front, of course, there are mechanisms such as the NEPAD, for example, that is a framework for African countries to share and integrate properly as far as economic issues are concerned. However, more needs to be done. We need to trash out the issue of budget deficits, because without independent countries growing, you cannot, as a collective, achieve anything meaningful. And that's the reason why the less developed economies, or emerging economies as they like to call us, are concerned. We have challenges here and there. Our custom issues, we need to articulate them properly and ensure that all of these things give room for a deepening South-South cooperation. Nobody from outside is coming to help us. We need to do more in terms of ensuring that the cooperation is harnessed properly across the continent. That's the only way we can go forward.
Another major concern that Nigeria presented is that of youth unemployment, and the solution is job creation. That was what Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Maitama-Tuga, pointed out when he presented Nigeria's plans on job creation and jobs opportunities for its youthful population. This was when the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, was speaking at the Africa Jobs Engine panel on the margins of the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. Yusuf Tuga pointed out to the panel government's approach by focusing on macroeconomic stability to attract private investments. The goal, he said, is to create clear path for the private sector, which he called the primary engine of job creation. The minister pointed to emerging global industries that are turning raw materials into finished goods, creating opportunities for youth and women. The minister concluded by reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to its reforms with the aim of making the country a platform for job growth across Africa. He also cautioned that the African Continent Free Trade Zone must stay focused on its core goal of economic integration. Let's take a breather here. We will be right back. Welcome back. The program is Global Update, and we are joined by Professor of International Relations, Mokhtar Imam. He speaks further for Nigeria to strengthen its economy and the need to engage its youth.
Young people sitting unemployed is a ticking time bomb. That's a recipe for doom. And so we need to do more, especially with our teeming and burgeoning population of over 65% being in the bracket of what we call young. Because according to the African Youth Charter, according to the Nigerian Youth Policy, anybody between the age of 18 to 40 is a young person. So more needs to be done to engage the young people. And we must also remember that every society grows on the strength of two things. First is the strength of the youth, and second is the wisdom of the elders. Where we leave our young population disengaged and unemployed, it doesn't speak well for Nigeria as a state.
President Donald Trump has launched his Board of Peace initiative with a signing ceremony at the World Economic Forum.
The board, chaired by Trump, will focus on overseeing a ceasefire, reconstruction, and governance in Gaza under his 20-point peace plan, which received endorsement from the United Nations Security Council resolution in late 2025. Trump indicates that the body could eventually expand to tackle broader global disputes that will work in conjunction with the UN to tackle global problems.
We can do pretty much whatever we want to do, and we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations. I've always said the United Nations has got tremendous potential, has not used it.
The launch comes amid Trump's wider activities at Davos, including discussing topics such as Greenland and meeting with leaders like Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
This board has the chance to be one of the most consequential bodies ever created. And it's my enormous honor to serve as its chairman. I was very honored when they asked me to do it.
In another development, President Trump said he has cancelled tariff threats on the European Union nations, saying NATO's route has agreed to the Greenland deal framework. President Donald Trump withdrew a threat to impose tariff on 8 European nations for their opposition of his ambitions for U.S. ownership of Greenland, saying he had reached an outlines of a deal with NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte on the Danish Autonomous Territory's future.
Again, our seasoned scholar shares his thoughts on U.S. matters concerning Greenland sovereignty that weren't discussed at all in Davos.
You listen to what the Prime Minister of Greenland said. He said, look, we're not up for sale. And if we were to take sides, we would rather go to Denmark. This is a time where democracy needs to be allowed to prevail. The voice of the people is what should matter. If in the West they're requesting for a referendum back home here in Africa and in other parts of the world, they should also hold themselves to account as well. So I think the United States presidents need to temper down with all of this going in and taking over. These are sovereign entities, for crying out loud, and we live in an international rule-based order which his forefathers created.
Diplomatic engagement with the EU is getting stronger as Denmark expressed readiness to deepen collaboration with Nigeria in the area of maritime development, as it plans to enhance the $1.2 billion port investment in the country. The Danish ambassador to Nigeria, Jens Ole Bach Hansen, disclosed this when he met with the Nigeria's Minister of Marine and Blue Economy in Abuja, the nation's capital.
We have a lot on offer, as do you, so I think it would be mutually beneficial and a win-win for your ministry, our embassy, our maritime authorities in Denmark, and in the end for our two great countries who have so much in common.
We have about 28 coastal states. These states are linked by sea, and so the significance of water transportation is very huge. So investment in that area is both profitable and sustainable. Part of our own contribution to food security is to increase the possibility of local production of fish. So we're looking at opportunity for collaboration to increase the local production.
Let's take some stories of the week under review.
But what is it?
TCL's Amy, a companion robot, displays enough intelligence to move around and star in a full-fledged show.
I just want to stay by your side.
Aw, Amy. And many people believe the next big thing in technology is humanoid robotics, and there are a lot of them here at CES, like AsiaBot, which comes from Shenzhen, China. It can perform all kinds of actions and some very artful Tai Chi and Kung Fu.
And the robots are very flexible, it's focused on the entertainment, show, and education. And our next stage target is make this robot into the human's house, like the babysitting and carrying the elder.
Chinese company Unix AI already delivers more than 100 Wandas to clients every month. Wanda can handle dishes, make beds, and do the laundry.
So the application is mainly in the hotel and the security scenario. So in the hotel, for now, we can already finish like 50 to 2/3 of whatever the cleaner in the hotel can already do.
Unix's latest robot has arms with 8 degrees of freedom, allowing it to replicate fine motor skills. But their robots aren't perfect, as the lights in the expo hall affect Wanda's precision in pouring tea.
So the ultimate goal is always go to the home, because the customer side is the largest market in the world. But we do have some challenges facing different rooms, because like different rooms have different layouts, different stuff and whatever. So I think going into the hotel is kind of like an intermediate step.
This full 360-degree rotation.
Boston Dynamics robot Atlas made its first public appearance at CES. It demonstrated autonomous skills and the ability to unload racks with the guidance of a human teleoperator trainer.
We are pursuing tasks that are difficult for people to do, that are exhausting for them to do, and also that are understaffed currently. So these are roles where factories actually can't produce enough or reach the efficiency levels they need to because they simply can't hire the workforce to do that. We're going to augment that workforce.
Ringley says Atlas can lift 66 pounds or 30 kilograms and is doing real work at Hyundai factories right now.
I think people should be welcoming them as a productivity enhancer and to kind of free those people up. Robots also create types of jobs, the way that these robots are trained, the way that these robots will be managed.
Ringley says they are studying human and humanoid robot collaboration carefully as the nature of work continues to evolve.
That brings us to the end of this week's edition of Global Updates. Join us next week for more stories shaping the globe. Remember, you can showcase your diaspora or diplomatic activity here. I am Ekene Ndulwe. Thank you for watching.